This is a diploma course. These are not university courses. KMTC is basically diploma courses. So the law does not cover that. And I think the most important thing is we basically, unless we're able to change the law, we leave it as it is. In any case, KMTC worked as an institution and worked very well. When something is not broken, why try to fix it? So that is that. Unless the law is changed, then of course we will have a lot of litigation in this. And then secondly, he said, the minister said, Honorable, the minister, the CS said that there are 300 spaces for certificate courses. Those are too few for the number of Kenyans who would qualify for certificate courses. And I think the only way to fix this thing, because we are not training only for the domestic market in Kenya, we are training for the international market. Right now, nursing is the most, marketable field where our young graduates can find jobs all over the world, in the developed world. So why don't we then increase, and not only do we do, can we aspire to have a Kenya Medical Training College in every constituency in the country? That way we'll be in a position to take care of that field for international, or what you call labor export. So those are my two questions. One, why didn't you increase the numbers in the meantime, in the interim? Can we have so many more? Don't you have to change the law before we can, we give COOPS? COOPS does a very good job, there's no question about that. But the law is very clear. And I think we'll have a lot of litigation if you don't fix that now at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you one more chance to respond to that, then we can close that question and move to the next one. We'll still have chances to joyride on the other questions coming.
Madam Speaker. It is true that there was a court case that arose out of the question of the placement of KMTC students through COOPS, and that was in 2019, and the letter that was written came after 2019, after the court case. However, Madam Speaker, I would like to inform the House that COOPS has the mandate to do the placement to the colleges under Section 56(1) of the Universities Act that allows COOPS to coordinate placement to universities and colleges of all our students in the country. So that mandate is provided for, and it is the basis of COOPS exercising that mandate or that power to place students in KMTC. In fact, COOPS currently places students to colleges that are domiciled in 18 other ministries. And COOPS was given this duty because of ensuring fairness, equity, and ensuring that there is no unfairness or unfair practices in the placement of the students. That is the basis, and that is the current status as we speak. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. We shall now move to... Yes, what's your point of order, Honorable Russell?
My question, Madam Speaker, is COOPS falls under the Ministry of Education, but KMTCs fall under the Ministry of Health. If they are not able to fund those KMTCs, because I have a KMTC in my constituency that the Ministry of Education has no business with, then how do they go and admit the students in those colleges? That is what the minister must tell us. And secondly, he's saying that the admission has to reflect the balance or the face of the country. Can he supply us with numbers of nurses who are undergoing nursing courses, yet we know the current distribution? That if I have 20 students from Marsabit and all of them cannot get admission into nursing, and somebody else has 1,000, 2,000, then does that reflect the fairness he's talking about? Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Russell, I think already the Cabinet Secretary has undertaken that he will supply the details, because he didn't anticipate that question. He has undertaken that he will supply the details, and it shall be supplied through the department, the Committee of on Education. And can you give us a timeline, Cabinet Secretary? Together with the courses as asked by the Honorable Tandaza.
We can submit those that data in 2 weeks, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so let it be noted that within 2 weeks, the Cabinet Secretary shall apply the data sought by Honorable Raso and Honorable Tandaza, actually. What's your other what clarification do you require, Honorable Nyikal?
On this point, I think if we can't run a country if we don't say the truth. The request was not from KMTC. If that letter came, it came later, and that it could have come under duress. Two, why is it that if this is they are running it, why is it that the help that is being given to KMT students is actually funds that we budget from the Committee of Health? If this is the institution that is under them and they are running it, why does it need that we give funds for the KMTC to COOPs so that they can get help? There is a contradiction here that all we need to do, change the law. We have the provision to change. And what about the advisory from the Attorney General around the same time of 2019? And if Honorable Waziri will look for facts, then we can actually bring them before Waziri in another committee. Because these are facts that we know were presented before a committee.
Okay, clearly, members, obviously the issue of the legislative challenges and the need to make amendments to the law. And Honorable Nyikal, you can actually promote, you can actually sponsor, your committee can sponsor that amendment. You don't even need the clearance of the minister. Or it can come as a private member's bill. Yes, okay. Thank you, and Honorable Cabinet Secretary, I hope you've noted that is also an issue that has come up, that you need to look at the legislation, apart from the documents that you're going to give members. Then, honorable members, I will then now allow the next question so that we don't deal with one question and ignore other questions that had been approved. There is a question of the Honorable Omboka Milema, which has been, he has requested that it be asked by the Honorable Member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha Wangari. And Honorable Martha Wangari, if you could kindly start with question 13 of 2025 first, and then you go back to 11.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, even for the consideration. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to ask question number 13, 2025. Could the Cabinet, on behalf of the member for Emuhaya, Honorable Mboko Milemba, to the Cabinet Secretary. Number one, could the Cabinet Secretary, number one, state plans put in place by the Ministry of Education to ensure that all schools receive capitation to facilitate them during the third term, given that the national examinations are about to commence? Number two, outline the measures being put in place by the Ministry of Education to ensure smooth operations of schools despite the ongoing verification process by sending a minimum of 50% of the capitation expected. Number three, provide the actions being taken by the ministry to uncover the ghost schools that have received funds for both infrastructure capitation and examination purposes. Number four, state the steps being taken to resolve the ongoing university lecturer strike to ensure resumption of learning by the university students. And finally, provide the expected time frame for concluding verification to enable schools to resume normal operations.
CS, please proceed and answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Help me with this, it's falling. Mr. Speaker, I beg to respond to the 4 questions on verification of schools and disbursement of capitation as follows. Mr. Speaker, the Office of the Auditor General recently reported that some of the schools that have received capitation from the Ministry of Education were non-existent. Following this report, the ministry decided to undertake a comprehensive verification exercise to determine the actual number of schools and the actual number of learners in the country. To ensure transparency and accountability in the utilization of public resources, we decided that the capitation shall only be released or disbursed to schools that will have been verified. Mr. Speaker, as at the 7th of October 2025, the ministry has verified a total of 39,752 primary, junior, senior, and special needs education institutions across the country, with a total of 9,430,139 learners. Capitation has been released to these institutions. Mr. Speaker, so far, for secondary schools, the ministry has released a total of 10 billion Kenya shillings out of an allocation of 10.3 billion, which makes 96% of funds released to secondary schools. For junior schools, the ministry has so far released 4.1 billion out of a total of 5.7 billion, making a total of 73% of funds released to junior schools. For primary schools, the ministry has disbursed 821 million out of a total allocation of 1.7 billion, making 48%. Mr. Speaker, the exercise is nearing completion, and we should receive a comprehensive report within the next 1 week, when the exercise is intended to be fully completed. In the meantime, we will continue to disburse the full expected capitation for third term to each school upon verification. Therefore, by the end of next week, that is 1 week from today, all verified schools would have received their full expected capitation for term 3. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the steps being taken to resolve the ongoing university lecturer strikes, the strike notices were issued by UASU, KUSU, and KUDHEHA on the 9th and 10th of September 2025 that cited disputes related to the full implementation of 3 CBA cycles, that is the 2017-2021 CBA, non-payment of the second tranche of arrears for the 2021-2025 CBA, and not kickstarting the negotiations for the 2025-2029 CBA. Mr. Speaker, regarding the 2021-2025 CBA, we wish to indicate that the requirements thereunder have substantially been settled. The total financial obligation requirement for this CBA was a total of 9.76 billion, disbursable in 3 tranches as follows. Number 1, 4.3 billion that was for immediate release for the period of October 2024 up to and including June 2025. This amount was fully disbursed. Number 2, 2.73 billion for the financial year 2025-2026. This tranche was to be disbursed in July. It delayed, but it has since been disbursed between the month of July and September 2025. It is fully paid. Number 3 was another 2.73 billion for the financial year 2026-2027, which is to be paid in the coming financial year, that is from July 2026, and their payment is not yet therefore due. So for the CBA of 2021-2025, it is substantially settled, or the issues raised therein have been substantially sorted out. Mr. Speaker, on the 2017-2021 CBAs, the unions contend that although the government disbursed 8.8 billion between the year 2020 and 2021, following the signing of the CBA on the 28th of October 2019, The sum of 7.9 billion remains outstanding. This is in accordance to the unions. However, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, on the other hand, has disputed these claims by the unions. SRC has advised that Kenya shillings 7.2 billion of the 7.9 billion claimed as outstanding has already been paid through normal annual salary increments, leaving a balance of 624 million only. The bone of contention is therefore this difference in interpretation. That is a matter that is intended to be resolved amicably through objective discussions. Mr. Speaker, the industrial action by Wasu, Kusu, and Kudea was injuncted by the court, that is by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, on the 18th of September 2025, and the parties were directed to submit conciliation. The strike, as we speak, is therefore unprotected. It is important to note, Mr. Speaker, that in his report dated 30th of September 2025, the conciliator found as follows and filed this report in court. One, that the implementation of the 2021-2025 CBA is up to date and the union members have been paid their dues accordingly. Number two, on the 2025-2029 CBA, the parties were waiting for the negotiation beacons to be provided by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission in line with its legal mandate. It is therefore premature to file a dispute on the 2025-2029 CBA. Indeed, the universities have already invited the unions to start preliminaries of the negotiations as they wait for the beacons from SRC. Number three, on the disputed balances due under the 2017-2021 CBA, the parties and the SRC should undertake an audit of university payrolls to determine how much has been paid and how much is due in order to agree on payment arrangements. Mr. Speaker, the conciliator's report was presented to court during its hearing of the 6th of October 2025. The court allowed the parties to hold a meeting on the 9th of October 2025, which is tomorrow, with a view to addressing the matters of the 2017-2021 CBA. Mr. Speaker, it should be clear that the most of the issues raised by the unions have been addressed. The 2021-2025 CBA is being implemented as agreed, and the government is ready to start negotiations for the 2025-2029 CBA. The issue of the balance under the 2017-2021 CBA necessarily requires an objective verification process to ascertain what is actually owed. The government is committed to this process. I respectfully submit.
Yeah, the Honorable Martha, you will get.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, however important this verification process was, the timing of it was really an inconvenience, Mr. Speaker, because you know we have exams, the NEC exams, we have KPSEA, we have KGISEA, and we have KCSE, and it's a very short term, Mr. Speaker. And my question, Mr. Speaker, because I've been wondering, we speak all the time, and what I need the CS to clarify, we speak all the time about ghost schools and ghost students, and there is no action taken against those people who provide these details, and yet we have actual students suffering and almost missing their examinations, Mr. Speaker. By now, we should have 100%, and in fact, our proposal, Mr. Speaker, was that at least 50% be sent to the schools even as you finish the verification. Because I know I've read in the media sometimes 2 weeks, now the CSA is 1 week. And maybe as he answers that, Mr. Speaker, he can also comment on the migration from NEMIS to CHEMIS, because these structures, Mr. Speaker, are also affecting students even as the migration happens, so that we know exactly what is happening at that point. Maybe I can have that clarification. And by what time? Because he says 1 week. By when? Because schools are closing by 21st, Mr. Speaker, so that we have examinations. And many schools, and I can tell you from my constituency, I have schools struggling, even after the verification, to buy basic things like chalk and pens. So, Mr. Speaker, let that be clear for members. And I know this is a widespread issue, and maybe also the migration on NEMIS can also help, so that when we speak of numbers, we know what exactly we are talking about.
Fair enough. Honorable Gisairo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will focus on the response on the strikes for our universities. Honorable Speaker, I think the ministry has really learned the art of hiding behind SRC. And this is not the first time. Honorable Speaker, in regard to the CBA of 2021-2025, which was valued at 9.7 billion, and the strike that was held in 2024, I sat in that committee where the ministry had initially insisted that the CBA was valued at 4 billion, and again hid behind SRC. It is through our committee that we were able to push for the right amount of that CBA, which is 9.7, to be effected. Honorable Speaker, now you are seeing they're talking about the 2017-2021 CBA having been done except for the 624 million. There is nothing further from the truth than that one. Honorable Speaker, the CS, who is a lawyer, did receive an advisory from the Office of the Attorney General, which represented the ministry and government in court. And the advisory, which was in April this year, advised the ministry and government to go ahead and pay the balance of 7.9 billion. Unless the CS is telling this House that the AG's office was wrong, and therefore the government has the wrong advisor and has no clue of their job, for them to come and disown whatever their own advisors advised them, and the ruling of the court is misleading of this House. Honorable Speaker, the young people of this nation are out here in the street, are at home. Lecturers are blowing vuvuzelas on the roads. We need answers of when the CBA in its entirety, the balance of 7.9 billion, will be effected. Honorable Speaker, allow me again to say that
you have asked, you were supposed to ask questions.
Yes, I was going to the background speech, so that the members can understand where the whole issue is coming from. Honorable Speaker, we had also, in the last strike, asked the ministry to have the 2025-2029 CBA immediately be negotiated before the financial year 25-26 starts. Honorable Speaker, up to now, they are yet to start and they are yet to register. Why the delays?
Yeah. The Honorable Kasim, then followed by the Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now that the CS has alluded to the fact that there indeed exists ghost schools and ghost students, can he also provide a list, because they said there's been able to uncover and the process is ongoing, a list of those purported ghost schools and students and where they are supposed to be located? Because from where I sit, there has been a tendency that whenever ghost school is mentioned, it either comes from an area where the CS for education comes from, the PS comes from, all those close to that office. That is where those ghost schools are. Can you provide a list of how far?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
The Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. allow me to ask the Cabinet Secretary 2 questions. Number 1, on the issue of capitation, there are a number of new schools that we have established through NGCDF, which already have an accord from Ministry of Education or TSC, but they have never received the capitation up to now. I have, for example, 2 schools in my constituency, Milimani Primary School and Sirekeresi Primary School, that's Funyula constituency, that were given a code by TSC, and they have actually posted teachers, but they have never received the capitation since 2024. What is the procedure and what are the issues? Number 2 is on the issue of the lecturer strike. And let me admit I'm conflicted because I left the lecture halls on 30th May 2027 to come to Parliament. And obviously when I see my colleagues hanging and dancing up and down the streets, it makes me sad, and they keep on calling me that why did you go there and you cannot tetea maslahi yetu. So Honorable Speaker,
you ask a question.
Yeah, through you, Speaker, I want to find out, can the minister assure this House and the people of Kenya that the reconciliation is going to take place for 2017-2021 CBA will be concluded early enough, preferably by the end of this week, so that the lecturers can go back to the lecture halls, and the new students, especially the first year, who left home raring to gain knowledge, go back, so that when they go back at home, they do not stay at home. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You made your point. The Honorable Donya, and then followed by the MP for Meru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want the CS for Education to give an answer. Last time he was here, he said that the children don't wake up early in the morning to go to school, that he had sent a circular to schools for learners to be in school at the right time. Should it tell this House why until today, Mr. Speaker, at 4:30, we have learners trekking to schools, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
See, the honorable lady at the back there, is that the MP for? Mudhoni Dorothy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I forgive you because the name Mudhoni is not in your area. Honorable Speaker, I want to directly ask the CS Education the issue of capitation. Honorable Speaker, it is in common knowledge that if there is a structured ministry, it is the Ministry of Education. The school calendar is well known. The school calendar is released way before students go back to school in the subsequent term. Honorable Speaker, I want the CS to tell us what is so difficult in organizing his ministry and ensuring that verification is done before the school calendar begins. Honorable Speaker, it's also in the common domain that we have recurrent expenditure in our schools, in these institutions. And when capitation is delayed, it is the head teachers and the people who are charged with the responsibility of being in charge of these institutions who suffer most, as well as the students.
Honorable Mudhoni, please ask a question.
Honorable Speaker, I'm asking what is the CS doing to ensure that verification of students is done before the beginning of every subsequent new term.
Fair enough.
Then number 2, Honorable Speaker, I want to go to the CBA, the strike of the university lecturers. Honorable Speaker, the 2017-2021 CBA was concluded. And when you see lecturers saying that this CBA was not honored, it is evident that it was not honored, Honorable Speaker. So the CS should not say there is no dispute here, because...
Order.
Honorable Speaker...
Don't tell him what he should not say. Ask a question.
Honorable Speaker, my question is, what is the CS doing about the 2017-2021 CBA to ensure that it is concluded before the start of the 2025-2029 CBA. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Two more, and then the Honorable Masito.
Naam, Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio mimi napatikana hapa. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Niruhusu nimuulize waziri wa elimu hapa. Ni kwa nini katika mashule mengi, hususan pale kwangu Kwale, ninapata mashule mengi hayana walimu. Tena zile shule ambazo ni za kiserikali, shule za msingi na shule pia za upili hazina walimu. Mheshimiwa Waziri, na ninajua walimu wanaandikwa kila siku, lakini shule karibu zote ndani ya Kwale County hazina walimu wa kutosha. Pili, pia nimuulize Mheshimiwa Waziri, nipe ruhusa pia nimuulize Mheshimiwa Waziri. Kuna hili jambo la shule ambazo zinasemekana zimetoka hardship areas. Mimi nafahamu nikiangalia vile Kwale County ilivyo, kuna county kama vile Kinango, kuna constituency kama vile Kinango, Lunga na pia sehemu fulani za Matuga na Msambweni pia. Ni sehemu ambazo ukiziangalia tu hivi unaona hizi ni shule ni sehemu za
Mheshimiwa Masito, uliza swali.
Swali langu linaniuliza ni kriteria gani au ni ujuzi gani unatumika kuzipanga zile shule kujua hii ni ya hardship area na hii si hardship area.
Honorable Kibageni, order. Masito, ushauliza maswali yako. Nidhamu. Hebu mpe Mike, please conclude.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Na pia nimuulize Mheshimiwa Waziri, anajua kwamba zile shule wanafunzi wakimaliza kidato cha 4 hawapewi certificate zao kwa sababu hawakulipa school fees zote, hawakulipa remedial zote, na jambo hili lilipitishwa hata na bunge hili, watoto wakimaliza shule waweze kupewa certificate zao. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Bissau, followed by the Honorable MP for Sotik, and the last one is Honorable Karoli Omondi, and then we'll have this round of.
Thank you.
Honorable members, you realize this is called riders because I think there was an element of, you never filed a question. You don't expect the minister to answer every question here which has not been filed in advance. So Minister, Cabinet Secretary, you will choose what to answer, and those ones that have not been filed before, you can give us another date when you will have the substantive answer. But proceed, the Honorable Bissau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, this question has come up frequently because I sit on the public investment education governance, and one is to do with the computation. Over and over again, even in my own backyard, even buying chalk sometimes is a problem. Now I would like when the CS stands up to answer this question to give us an action plan on how we are going to stop this issue of delayed submission of computation. 2 is to do with teachers and also infrastructure distribution. Most of my schools, if not all, have got a shortage of teachers. While we know in the other places in the Republic, probably even teachers are more than the students. So as the CS stands up, he should tell us what is the action plan is going to put in place to ensure that where we don't have teachers, where we have teacher shortages,
fair enough,
that they are put in place, including infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
You made your point, Honorable MP for Sotik. Then finally with Honorable MP for Karoli Omondi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to thank you for this opportunity which I have been given. I want to ask the Honorable Minister 2 questions. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, for almost 1 month now, there is a wave of strikes and destruction of property within the region of South Rift. In my constituency, specifically Sotik, we had Kablong girls burning the dormitory and destroying that property in that school. We had detained high school, Mr. Speaker, where a lot of destruction. In fact, that was the worst strike ever. I want to know and also Koyua, all these areas. And we are hearing, Mr. Speaker, that there could be tension in many schools in our region. I want to ask the minister whether he knows about this. I know he knows what action he is taking, because we are really worried that whatever we have built as a region, as institutions, destroyed in a week is really worrying. The parents are worrying. The population there are worried, particularly Little High School. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know what the minister is, whether he has plans to stem this serious problem which is causing havoc in our area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
My old seasoned administrator, one of the best administrators I've seen in this country, you did not file a question on all those issues you have raised now. If everybody here is essentially a joyrider on a question, the minister came prepared to answer the question by Omboko, and which was asked on his behalf by Honorable Martha. He has, the generosity to answer them all, but in future, I suggest all this, what do you call, very sticking things like those ones. Put up a question. And finally, yes, Karoli Omondi. Karoli Omondi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Could the Honorable Minister inform the House when the ministry will disburse the 14 million shillings that was budgeted under the public hearing process in last year's budget for Ogaka Primary School in Suba South constituency? And could he also indicate what the status of the request for infrastructure development funds by Kenyatta Primary School and kenyanYoutuber Primary School, both in Suba South constituency? Thank you.
The final one, the lady, Rahab.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask a straight question. Waziri, why are you sending Form 4 students home? And we know very well those children are preparing for exams. I was at home on Monday, and most of the children are at home. It's not their fault. Kindly, can you address and instruct all the principals to allow the children to go and do their exams?
Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The decision to undertake the verification exercise, as I indicated, arose out of the fact that when the Auditor General undertook a forensic audit of the schools, there was an indication that there are ghost schools and ghost students. But the exercise that was undertaken by the Auditor General was of a sampling nature, and not all the schools were checked. So we decided as a ministry to undertake the verification exercise, and it is true that we weighed the decision to undertake the exercise vis-a-vis the release of the capitation to those schools, and therefore the possibility of continuing to release resources to schools perhaps that do not exist. And we agonized over that decision, and we came to the conclusion that it was better to delay a little bit in the process of releasing the capitation in order to get the right number and the right schools to which we are releasing that capitation. We, however, had not anticipated that it would take more than 2 weeks. We had calculated that it would take 2 weeks, but it took slightly longer. However, the decision we made in order to mitigate the challenges that the schools are going through was that every single day, once we conclude the verification exercise for a particular school, which we confirm it exists and the correct number of students, disbursement for those resources or resources to those schools was released to them. That is why, as we speak today, we have released funds, for example, for secondary schools to 97% of the schools. And generally, for all the schools, we are at 84% of the exercise. The question was actually requiring us to have done at least 50%. So far, we've done about 84% generally and 97% for secondary schools, especially because of the major exams that are coming up. So we are working day and night to ensure that in the next 1 week, by Wednesday next week, would have completed this exercise. So in order to conclude on this matter, the intention is that once the analysis of the data that we receive is done, we will then determine who or where are these ghost schools, and we have no evidence so far, to just respond to Honorable Kasim, that the ghost schools that are discovered are related to people who work in the ministry. We don't have that evidence so far. But once the analysis is done, and we determine that there are schools that did not exist that previously for the last 3-4 years have been receiving resources, then the investigative agencies will take up that matter and handle it. So the purpose of the verification exercise was not just to release the capitation, but also to enable us going forward to make the right decisions and be able to have the right number. Honorable members, this question of the numbers of the people that we have or the learners that we have in our institutions and the actual institutions that we have is tied to the capitation itself. Because the capitation that we give in the Ministry of Education is at the rate of students. For example, in primary schools, we give 1,540. In junior schools, we give 15,000, and in secondary schools, we give 22,000. So it is that figure, 22,000, times the correct number of the students that we have. Now, when we do not have the correct number, or the correct number is not known or accepted by all and sundry, that this is the actual number of students that we have, then it becomes a budgeting issue, so that when we submit our budgets and say this is the number of students we have and this is the amount that we have, that amount normally is not budgeted for in full. So we've been budgeting, but we do not get it in full because it is slashed. And it's slashed because our numbers have not been verified, so that yourselves here in Parliament and also Treasury then has the capacity to say we do not have the correct number, and they can reduce that number, the amount, by 20%, 10%, leading to the underfunding of the sector. But with the right number confirmed, that this is the right number of students that we have, then it will not be possible to slash that budget, because then we would be violating policy and we would be violating the Constitution under Article 53. So this exercise is important again because we are working towards migrating from the NEMIS system that we had to the KEMIS system, which is much more robust. And the reason why we are doing this exercise is so that we do not just move the data from NEMIS to KEMIS, because if the data in NEMIS was incorrect, we would have transferred the incorrect data to the new system and would not have resolved the problem that already is there that we want to resolve. So we did this exercise with the intention of ensuring that, yes, for this third term, maybe for 2-3 weeks, we will have a problem, but going into the future, we will have been able to resolve that question in terms of numbers, in terms of the capitation, and in terms of even the delays, which I'm coming to respond to. So this is what is happening in that space, just to ensure that the data that we have is cleaned, in order for us to ensure that we have a system that we can verify, that we can defend when we are bringing the budget, we are able to defend it, and then we are able to ensure that our students do not suffer that loss of being underfunded. Mr. Speaker, the timeline of completion, as I've said, we'll be completing this exercise by next week on Wednesday, and all the resources would have been released to those schools. Mr. Speaker, on the question of Honorable Gisairo's question of hiding behind SRC. Mr. Speaker, it is not true that the ministry is hiding behind SRC. The actual position is that SRC is a constitutional commission mandated to deal with matters of remuneration across the country and not just for one sector. SRC has written to the unions and confirmed that this is the figure that we think is owed. If you challenge it based on the payrolls, the technical teams will meet and they'll go through the payrolls and the pay slips to confirm what is owed. What Honorable Gisairo refers to as the AG's advisory, it is true the AG indicated that there is 7.9 billion due. And what we are saying is that out of that 7.9 billion, 7.2 billion has been paid. So it is just ensuring or verifying that position as is it true that the 7.9 billion has been paid and the balance is 624. We are not saying that the CBA is not the 8.8 plus the 7.9 making 16 billion. We are only saying that even though the instructions came that this is the amount that is due, the 7.9, 7.2 can be confirmed to have been paid through the normal annual increments in the specific payrolls of all the universities. And that is the meeting that the teams are meeting tomorrow to go through and confirm what is due. And once that confirmation is made, then we will be able to agree on how the payment is going to be done. Mr. Speaker, it is not possible, for example, for the unions, for the ministry, to pay 7.9 billion when SRC has said 7.2 is paid, because that will be another audit query before this office, before this August House, that we've done double payment. So it is important that all these government institutions are aligned so that we confirm that this is the actual amount that is outstanding. Then we'll make a proposal on how that payment is going to be done. And of course, this is a challenge that has come because it's an old CBA that we are trying to resolve as we speak. I've answered the question of ghost schools. On the question of capitation, not going to schools that have TSC numbers, we need to find out the specifics, and then we can respond to that question specifically when the application was done, when the code was done, and whether they have met all the requirements that are required under our structures and regulations for them to be able to get allocated the capitation. On the lecturers' strike, I can assure you that as a ministry, we are concerned that, for example, a CBA of 2017-2021 is affecting students who are admitted in 2025-2026, because the students of 2025-2026 have already paid and they don't owe the lecturers anything. They are owed on a previous CBA. So there is a constitutional and a jurisprudential question there that perhaps we need to look at, but we are working day and night to ensure that that CBA is sorted out and we agree on how to proceed going forward. And that is why in the CBA, in the negotiations of the 2021-25 CBA last year, in 2024, it was the ministry that came up with the idea that we need to be negotiating our CBAs at the beginning of their cycle so that it is better or easier to plan going forward. So that is what we want to do. That's the commitment that the government has given. And that's why we were saying once we receive the parameters from SRC, which normally gives the beacons within which you have to negotiate, then the negotiations will be done. And from there, the issue of how that payment will be done will be agreed on, and therefore we'll keep our lecturers in class. We have no interest at all in allowing our lecturers to be in the streets because our students are suffering and we are alive to it. To Honorable Donya's question of the students waking up early, it is true, and I think you called me when you met the students somewhere along the way, I think it was in Oyugis. We have a regulation, a policy. The school begin at 8 o'clock and close at 3:30 for class. Those are the class hours that are given by the ministry. And there are circulars that are given to that effect, so that any institution that is violating this is doing it outside the guidelines of the ministry, and disciplinary action is taken on an individual basis for those institutions that are picking kids too early in the morning. So if we have specific cases, we'll be sure to take action against those particular schools. I have indicated the question of capitation, why we had to do it even though the schools were open. It was a difficult decision, but we thought it is more important to know the right numbers than the issues, the challenges that were going to be there, because they've been there continuously. And we thought if we are able to resolve this question now, in the future, would have been able to resolve a bigger problem that we've been facing. And that also is tied to the delayed capitation. As I've indicated, it's because the numbers are not tying up. And currently, Mr. Speaker, in order to avoid the delays in capitation as a result of release of the exchequer, we are in discussions, and a technical team has been formed between the ministry and the Ministry of Finance to discuss on this issue of 50% first term, 30% second term, and 20% third term ratios. And what we are doing is aligning these ratios, aligning our academic year to the financial year. You will note that our academic year is January to December, for example, and the financial year is June to July. So we need to align that space so that, for example, if Treasury has more pressure for resources in the first term, we do not receive funds during that time. We receive more funds when they do not have pressure for the resources like the payment of debts. So this is the analysis that is being done so that if they are spread across the 12 months, is there 2-3 months when they do not have pressure for resources and they have more money, then we can receive that money and ensure it is ring-fenced to avoid the situation of continuous delays when schools are opening. And this particular ratio, this particular arrangement may change once that discussion is completed, and we are hoping to complete that discussion this term so that come next year, we have a system that covers both the actual amounts that are coming and also dealing with the issue of delays. On the issue of Honorable Masito's question of the TSC in Kwale, the lack of teachers, again, it is the same exercise that is being undertaken also by TSC. And as you well know, we have shortages of teachers. That's why we have employed so far 76,000 teachers. 24,000 are being employed, and another 16,000 will be employed next year. But over and above that, they are also undertaking a rationalization exercise, because there could be areas that have more teachers than they should have, and other areas that have less teachers than they should. So that rationalization exercise will be able to help them make a decision on how to redistribute the teachers across the country in order to ensure that there is not a specific area that does not have the number of teachers that they should have. With respect to the question of hardship areas, Mr. Speaker, hardship areas are gazetted by the Ministry of Public Service. Currently, there is a review process that is going on to reevaluate the areas that are going to be called hardship areas so that in the country it is harmonized, because there was a situation where some areas are hardship and others are not, and they're actually from the same place. In other words, you'd find perhaps people who are working in the civil service get hardship in the same area where, for example, teachers do not get. So that harmonization exercise and review is being undertaken by the ministry, and once that is done, it would be gazetted so that each and everyone would be able to determine that this particular place is a hardship area. Mr. Speaker, the KCSE certificates that are held or withheld by schools is an illegality under the Kenya National Examinations Council Act, Section 10, and we've done circulars, and where we find that there is a principal, there is a head of institution who is holding this particular certificates, action is being taken, and as we speak, quite a number of discipline cases are ongoing through the TSC. So we are working towards ensuring that eventually we have all the certificates released, and if there are any specific cases that the certificates have been withheld, please raise them with us. We will definitely take action and ensure that those certificates are released to the students. Mr. Speaker.
You're on a point of order. Why don't you allow him to finish, and then you can raise that issue. You don't have to say point of order now. You wait until it's complete.
Honorable Bissau's question, I think I've dealt with the issue of delayed capitation and the question of distribution of infrastructure and teachers. It is the same issue that I'm talking about. For the last 2 financial years, we did not get any infrastructure funds, but in the 2025-2026, am I right? Yes, there was a provision of 1.3 billion infrastructure, which would be distributed among the schools or among the deserving areas. Honorable Francis Gay's question on the wave of strikes. Yes, there has been strikes, especially in a number of areas, and this is attributed sometimes to the fear of exams, because it normally happens around the third term, but we've asked our principals, our parents, and our guardians to have discussions with students so that if there are particular challenges that the students are going through, so particular pressures, they can be dealt with at the level of the school. What is important to note is that in situations where students commit arson, like in instances of littering, criminal action can actually be taken against them, and it has been taken against them, and it forces the parents to be required to pay for the rebuilding of those particular school properties that are destroyed. So it is important to just be alert, the career teachers, the psychosocial activities that take place in those schools, so that they can be able to engage with the students to ensure that where there is a challenge, where there is a problem, it is dissolved or it is dealt with earlier before it gets out of hand. There are many reasons why they are doing this. Some do not want to undertake exams, some feel like they are not prepared, and that has been the cause of some of these activities, but each case is being dealt with individually. Honorable Karoli Omondi's question is specific. Perhaps if you could do a note to us, then we can be able to respond specifically to those 3 schools that you raised, and we'll give you an answer that is not guesswork. I'd like to give you a specific answer to those specific questions. And with respect to sending of the students home, this is not allowed in third term, because if it's a question of capitation, it is the head of institutions that was to submit the data in order for us to be able to release capitation to them. And with some institutions that have been having problems releasing, we've been able to send our sub-county directors to them to help them upload the information that is required. We've required a little bit more information than it was before. For example, we need to know in each grade how many students you have, how many are female, how many are male, like that, all the way from grade 1 to grade 9, and then from 3 and 4. So we are going to do that, a reminder, so that they do not send students home. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Martha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I figure you're giving me to ask the next.
Order, Honorable. When you get a, just relax. Proceed.
You're asking me to ask the next question? Yeah. Yes. No?
No. Did you have any more clarification you needed on this question?
Just a point of information, Mr. Speaker, that I've had the CS say that they have released 97 of all the secondary schools and 84 primary school for the capitation versus what was requested. And I want to note, Mr. Speaker, that we were not requesting that you deal with 50%. Yes. We were talking of capitation to every school, the minimum being third term, not the number of schools. Okay. And on the issue of sending children home, yes, I wish the ministry could just ask their sub-county officers. Form 4s are at home, and I know in many constituencies, including mine. So I think that is an issue that the ministry needs to pick up.
The MP for Kwanza, just give one quick rider, and then, of course, the MP for Nyeri Town. Oh, yeah. Then we go to the next question. Proceed.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me the chance. First and foremost, I think you've done capitation. Minister, you, I think about a year now, all in the ministry. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that the ministry came up with this program of TVET. And from what I'm seeing, you've actually been giving out money. We are expecting that this can be done to be able to help our youth to be able to get jobs, what have you. I'm stuck up in my constituency. TVET has not been given the funds from your ministry. I contributed my bit from NGCDF, and up to now, I think there's a problem in the ministry. Lastly, very important, can you, as a ministry, give directives to TSC so that, Mr. Speaker, we have youths that finished school and graduated almost from 2011 up to now. Why don't you give directive to the TSC to employ the youth that actually graduated much earlier?
Fair enough.
And then now there's nothing.
You have asked your question. Madenge? Yours is a point of order, relax.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard the minister say that they've not had funds for infrastructure, but this year they got some money. Mr. Speaker, there's a program that the ministry is running known as expansion of infrastructure at the secondary school education equity and quality improvement program. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to know the criteria that the ministry has used in identifying and actually not identifying, in excluding the schools and the constituencies that have not benefited. Mr. Speaker, for example, in Nyeri, despite Nyeri town constituency having day schools in what were the former colonial villages, which are pockets of poverty, and also in the slums of Nyeri town, none of the schools, the day schools in Nyeri town, have been included in this program. I think this is causing disparity. One more question, Mr. Speaker, on the issues of teachers' salaries and promotions. Mr. Speaker, the ministry, using TSC, did some regrading of job groups. And unlike what we have seen in the past, some job groups were merged, unlike the norm, which has resulted in the stagnation of teachers under job group C1, C2, or C2, C3. Why is the ministry having two grading schemes for salaries for teachers? The grading schemes for personnel employed by TSC is different than the one for teachers working in schools.
Yes. Why didn't you file that question so that the minister can come prepared for this question? Honorable members, I think we better be very serious with our business here. That's why you call order. Yes, are you on a point of order? The Honorable, yes, you're on a point of order. What's your point of order?
Speaker, yesterday when we were in the House, and I think it's Honorable Ndonya who raised the issue, and there was a suggestion that when the CS comes here, we offer these suggestions to him so that when he goes back to the office, he can look at it and consider.
So what's your suggestion?
That instead of this protracted tussles between the students and the principals, why can Kenya National Examination Council send the result slip directly to the students? Just like e-citizen, birth certificate, you don't have to go through a place where you were born to get a birth certificate, so that even if you your mother left a bill there, the certificate is held. Why can't he consider by next year members, the same straight? Thank you.
I think this question, Raso, you're the last one, and then we'll go to the next question. Yes, what is your...
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in his response to the question by Honorable Mother, the CS talked about the problem of having teachers' shortages. I want to put to the minister, why has it taken almost 8 months for you to approve Marsabit Teachers Training College, when actually you will be able to train more teachers and try to fill in the gaps? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Raso, seasoned civil servant who rose to the ranks and became one of a senior military officer. Why didn't you ask that question? This guy would have, the minister would have come, the CS would have come prepared with a comprehensive answer for you. And that's why we call this riders. Actually, we're trying to mask the issue of saying joy riders. You know what I mean? So let's be serious with our business and let members of parliament file questions that are specific and let the minister come ready to answer that. Honorable Mwenje, in appreciation of the times I served in this parliament with your dad, I'm going to allow you, although you came very late. Please give him so he asks the question, the last question, and then the minister responds.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for even that honor. My question will be just very simple and straightforward, Honorable Speaker. The Cabinet Secretary had requested him to deploy education officers to the new sub-counties, especially in Nairobi, and I even wrote a letter to him I'd hope you can give me a response on the status of deploying those new sub-county officers within Nairobi County. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Minister, you can answer that, but do not feel, or rather, don't take it obligated to answer a question that essentially was not part of the original question. If you can answer it, it's your pleasure. If not, then we'll always give another date or another time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Marsabit Teachers Training College, I'll find out why it took long, but the shortage is not because of lack of teachers. It's because of lack of resources. That is, we have to have a budget before we employ the teachers, because you can't employ them without a budget. And we'll discuss with TSC to ensure that that is done, because it is a constitutional, an independent constitutional commission in charge of teachers and teaching resources. But we have a discussion with them, and we've agreed that in this new team that they are employing, they employ the people who qualified earlier, the people who are almost 45 years old and above, who qualified many years ago and have not gotten a job. So that is the policy that they are going to use. With respect to the issue of Nyeri, the KPIL program has a selection criteria, and we shall be able to endeavor to provide that to Honorable Madenge to confirm whether and to see which schools from Nyeri have or are not there, so that we can be able to be on the same line. The suggestion of NEC result slip being sent to the students, that is an excellent idea, and we've also thought about sending the results, the next results maybe to our sub-county offices, so that they are collected from there with copies or with a register sent to the schools to confirm that those certificates have been picked by the students, so that there is no challenge or there is no situation where the students are suffering or being able to be told that they have to pay many things before they receive. Deployment of education officers to the newly created sub-counties. We are working towards posting the DDC to those sub-counties from the ministry. Then we will be able to do the identification, have those officers done. That exercise is actually ongoing. The analysis is being done, and the resources that are attended to it so that they can be there. We anticipate that by January, all the officers will be in place. Thank you.
Fair enough. Honorable, are you on a point of order?
Oh, sorry. On Ferdinand's question, I know we've agonized over the Kwanzaa TVET institution, and we are really pushing to have the resources so that we can be able to provide for the TVETs that are required. In fact, the department requires 790 million to be able to allocate to the TVETs that have been started that require to be completed. So, but we are doing everything possible to get those resources to ensure that those institutions are completed, because you've already committed resources to them. So we are doing something about it, Honorable Wanyonyi.
What is your point of order, the MP for Yatta? What's out of order? Go to the next one.
Well, it's not a point of order, Mr. Speaker. I only have one question, which is actually a follow-up on what my colleagues have asked. It's in regards to the help disbursement, Mr. Speaker. There is actually prolonged delay in disbursement of help, and so many of our young students, particularly from poor families, are coming to our offices. So what is the ministry doing to mitigate the delays in disbursement of help? Because that's a major concern to many parents, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, if you wish to answer that, I will then give you, you can have a quick shot. If not, then it will be, the MP will have to be told to list that question himself, and then you.
Again, there might be a delay in the disbursement of help is because of the exchequer, and we are doing everything possible to ensure that the resources that come are disbursed as soon as possible to the students who have applied. So we are doing something in that space, and we continue working towards ensuring that our students, especially from the poor families as you've indicated, do not suffer. So we keep following and working very closely with National Treasury for the resources to come, then they are disbursed to those students.
Honorable Nikala, I want to go to the next question. What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister is really answering prepared questions very well, but one pattern is coming out, that what we see on the ground is different from what he knows. and he says, if you have any case, let us know, we'll investigate. Does it mean there is actually a disconnect between his office and what's happening on the ground?
What exactly?
One,
yes.
The children are going to school early. Honorable Ndonye said he saw them in Oyugis. I see them on Farasi Lane every time I leave at 5. Students have been sent home. When I was the last tweet, I know about 3-4 schools where students were sent home. Certificates are being held. The minister has even given instructions. He's saying if there are specific cases. Mr. Speaker, what this means, that the information we see does not reach the minister. So my question is, does he investigate this, or are his officers not doing their work? Because what we see, he should get from their officers, his officers on the ground.
Yeah, the minister said that we will deal with this thing on a case-by-case basis, if I'm wrong. If I'm not wrong.
It's not possible.
Order, Honorable Nyikal. Order. There's one school that Madam Donya talked about. Do you have other additional schools? Give the list to the minister so that he can take an action. But the rules, he said the rules are very clear. Children, order. Yeah, but do you have, how many cases do you have? Specific cases right now that you would, all these things are brought up as an afterthought. You never filed these questions in the first place. Ordinarily, order, honorable members. I was in this house and I chaired this and I remember the rules and I don't think it has changed much. You don't expect to stand on the floor of the house, mention a school, and expect the minister to have answers for you immediately. He has to go back to establish the facts and take an action. Yeah, what's your point of order, Honorable MP for Kwanza?
I had a very, the speakers just, Mr. Speaker, the ministers answered one, but one that I wanted him to do was to give directive to TSC so that the students, those who finished earlier,
directives by the minister are not given on the floor of the house.
Can he do something about it?
The executive, he has said he will look into it. He goes back and you order. Honorable members, you have an opportunity to go and meet the minister in his own office. I was in the Ministry of Education, order. He's there most of the time. Ogamba is there almost all the time. I've tried to see him. I've seen him, but nonetheless, give the specific. Yeah, what's the banning you, Honorable Raso? Please don't use this opportunity to basically, ride roughshod ministers. Give them their questions and expect answers, and there's a timeline, and then go back and get the answers. Or file the answers, the questions, specific questions. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I believe when you sit on that chair, you don't have a vote. You must be a fair arbiter. What we are raising with the minister is things which are out there. We live in Nairobi, and children leave their homes at 4 in the morning to get to schools. What sort of learning takes place when a child who is 5, 6, 7 leave their homes at 4?
An arbiter, an independent arbiter, does not mean he has to agree with you. The minister has said the rules are clear. You have specific cases, go and talk to him about it.
Mr. Speaker, we are the representatives of the people. And that is why we must have our word, and you should hear us. And even if the minister has no answers, he has actually said that he will go away and investigate or give us answers.
Which he has said he's dealing with these things on a case-by-case basis. Yes, Donya, what's your point of order? Yes.
Sorry, the school-going children are in uniform.
Yes.
He doesn't need to investigate. He can even liaise with the Ministry of Interior. Police officers are everywhere. They arrest these children. They take them to the police station, and then you question the school. Mr. Speaker, I come from Kisii, where we have high rates of defilement. These children, they are on the road by 4:30. There is no electricity. We have so many bushes, meaning we have given out our girls just to the world. At 4:30, are they studying for PhD? It is the minister who should do a circular to schools, and it has to be a tough circular so that we say school begins at 8, the way he has stated. Then they will leave home at 6, which is good time when everyone can see. When they report to school, Mr. Speaker, and if they don't honor the circular, then something can be taken to those schools the way it has been before, when they were told the schools must have yellow buses. Everything was in order. I support Honorable Raso because Kisi, check the statistics. 60% are teen mothers. It's not something to smile about. Waziri is my uncle. He must act, he must be tough, and in fact, next week I'm going to Kisi. If I bring more photos of children going to school, something has to be done from Waziri's office. It is not a walk in the park. It is very bad for our young girls going to school at 4:30. Are they doing masters? Which education is this they are going to participate in, Mr. Speaker? It is really bad.
Minister, Cabinet Secretary, that the issue being raised, although not as a question by any of the members, but nonetheless, we are all parents, and she has a very emotional issue here when you talk about teen girls who are pregnant and the dangers that they face. Can you give a firm undertaking to this House that the matter is going to be dealt with as a matter of urgency? And that agency itself, including a public pronouncement from your office to all those schools, to the serious consequences of exposing children, pupils, and students to the kind of dangers that the members are talking about. On the same issue? No, not on the same. 1 minute. Honorable members, this is a house of rules. We can't sit there so that you keep on thinking of one question or the other, which you had not filed before. Okay, what is your question?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. If us as members of National Assembly we see these kids, and including yourself, where does the CS live that he needs evidence from us? And I believe as he moves around, he also sees these kids, surely.
Order. That matter has been raised by the ruling from the chair here, which was very firm. Cabinet Secretary, give a firm undertaking. Given the fact that there is this dangerous exposure of our young girls.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for that concern. We undertake as a ministry to work with all other government agencies to ensure that our circular on the school times are adhered to, and serious administrative action will be taken against any institution that violates it, so that we can bring that back our institutions to order with respect to the school time. So we undertake as a team, and we are going to make the pronouncement to ensure that even our officers on the ground are actively ensuring that that circular is adhered to.
Not just a circular, what everybody will see, including your pronouncement in the media.
Yes.
Because seriously, we
yes,
cannot allow young girls to get exposed to what.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, I think give also every member of parliament who has issues like that in his backyard should come and report to the cabinet secretary, so that they're able to specifically go to certain institutions, send people there, carry out an exhaustive investigation, and bring to book people who are flouting the circulars and the rules of the ministry. Is that good enough? Honorable Raso, is that good enough? Or you want us to take the military there now?
Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what we are seeking from you, and also the minister. And he has made a good point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next question. Next question, the Honorable Martha Wangari asking on behalf of the Honorable
Member for
Milemba.
Emuhaya. And Mr. Speaker, just to be on record, I support you in terms of accessibility, and I think this CS is one who tries to respond to members, even on phone, if you have a burning issue.
All the time.
Maybe in your direction, you can join with what Honorable Nyikal has spoken about, because these circulars are being treated just as pieces of paper. That is the problem, the implementation, so that we align with what the minister has said. Honorable Speaker, allow me to ask question number 11 of 2025 on behalf of Honorable Member for Emuhaya, Mboko Milemba, to the Cabinet Secretary. Could the Cabinet Secretary, one, provide details on the funds allocated by the Ministry of Education to public primary and secondary schools for co-curricular activities, specifically for participation in the National Ball Games and the Kenya Music Festival? Number two, state how much money is retained by the Ministry of Education from the capitation funds allocated for students on co-curricular activities, and explain why schools are fundraising for these co-curricular activities, yet they ought to receive capitation. Number three, outline the facilitation provided by the ministry to learners and teachers participating in regional and national competitions, such as the Kenya Music Festival. Number four, and finally, explain why the sub-county education officials require head teachers or principals of schools to remit part of the capitation funds to their offices, which are then channeled to the Ministry of Education for co-curricular activities, even though the funds are intended to directly facilitate students' participation in such activities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Minister, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education allocates funds for co-curricular activities as part of the annual capitation for primary, junior, and secondary schools as follows. For primary schools, co-curricular funding is embedded within the free primary education vote, and with a portion dedicated to sports, games, and performing arts, that is drama and music festivals. The sum of Kenya shillings 76 per learner per year is earmarked for sports, games, and performing arts activities. For secondary schools, under the free secondary education program, Kenya shillings 1,500 per learner per year is allocated for co-curricular activities. This allocation covers a wide range of school games, sports, and performing arts. These funds are intended to support schools' co-curricular activities at the sub-county, county, regional, and national levels. The support is in the areas of transport, accommodation of participants and officials, water provision, medical services, and other championship and festival costs. Mr. Speaker, the funds, that is the 76 shillings and the Kenya shillings 1,500, are not assigned per discipline, for example, for ball games or music festivals. The schools themselves prepare budgets and allocations per the activity that they participate in. Mr. Speaker, it is also important to note that except for the transportation of learners, the national games and national music festivals are funded by the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund and thus do not depend on capitation. Mr. Speaker, on the second question, the ministry retains part of the capitation earmarked for co-curricular activities as follows. Kenya shillings per learner per year for primary school and Kenya shillings 500 per learner per year for secondary schools. These funds that are retained are consolidated and sent to the regional, county, and sub-county offices to run co-curricular activities at those levels. The balance of the amount is sent directly to the schools. However, it is important to note the following challenges that impact on resources. Number one, cost of national representation. When schools qualify for presentation to represent counties or regions at national competitions, the cost of participation often exceeds the standard capitation provided for because the funding formula is designed for average participation at the local and sub-county levels. National participation involves hiring of transport, boarding facilities, and logistical costs. Number two, delayed disbursements. Occasionally, Delayed release of funds by National Treasury affects timely facilitation, leading to schools needing to bridge funding gaps through internal fundraising or support from the local stakeholders and other well-wishers. Number 3, specialized events. Some competitions, e.g. music festivals, performances, involve things like costumes, instruments, and choreography. These require specialized resources beyond the standard Palana allocation. The ministry is reviewing funding guidelines to address these gaps and reduce reliance on support from other well-wishers as much as that may be necessary due to limited resources and higher requirements. Question 3, Mr. Speaker. The ministry facilitates learners and teachers participating in regional and national co-curricular activities as follows. Number 1, transportation grants. Partial funding to support school teams to travel to competition venues. Number 2, they provide for uniforms and costumes which are necessary, especially when competitions move beyond school levels. Extra funding becomes necessary to cater for these items. Number 3, accommodation and meals. Through collaboration with host institutions, the ministry subsidizes boarding and meal costs. Number 4, coordination and logistics. The ministry deploys officials to coordinate scheduling, officials, judging, and venue preparation for national events. Number 5, training and workshops. Capacity building sessions are organized for teachers and adjudicators to ensure high quality performances and standardized assessment criteria. Number 6, awards and recognition. The ministry provides trophies, certificates, and other recognition incentives for outstanding performances and to promote talent development. This facilitation is, however, dependent on budgetary availability and prioritization within the education sector funding. Mr. Speaker, for co-curricular activities this cycle, for example, the sub-counties received only Kenya shillings 155,000 for all the second-term activities. Counties received 505,000, while regions received an average of 1.2 million. This is grossly inadequate to run all the disciplines, primary ball games, special needs primary games, junior school ball games, secondary school games, special needs secondary games, and Kenya Music Festival, primary, junior, and secondary. The Western region, for instance, required a total of 219 buses to transport learners to Meru for this year's music festival. This implied approximately 13.1 million requirement for fuel alone at the cost of 60,000 shillings per bus. Going forward, Mr. Speaker, we are working towards mobilizing more resources for co-curricular activities through securing optimal capitation allocations. And at the same time, we are also working to achieve cost effectiveness in the management of co-curricular activities, including exploring, for example, digitizing some aspects of the co-curricular activities like virtual adjudication. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the ministry's field officers are not authorized to demand remittances from schools' capitation funds for any purpose whatsoever. Capitation funds are intended to be managed at the school level, Palana-centered activities, including co-curricular participation. If there are any cases, again, of schools being compelled to remit such funds, the ministry would appreciate reports to inform appropriate and immediate action. The ministry's field officers may only be involved if schools, on their own volition, seek support in coordinating the pooling of resources to centralize logistics for cluster-based activities. Where this is done, the field officers are required to do so in a transparent and accountable manner and in conjunction with the schools themselves. I submit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on the last one, of course, to the CS, it wouldn't be official for them to complain openly, to say they have received money. But this matter was very heated on this floor. And that time, the music festivals, I think, were in Meru. And many of these schools were stranded. And that's why this question was raised, because they were coming to the MPs to help them fund fuel, food, or any other expenses. But my follow-up then would be, Mr. Speaker, if you give 76 shillings only and then retain 40 shillings per learner, then it means already you're giving 36 shillings only. And you have retained 500 from 1,500 from secondary schools. By all means, this money cannot be sufficient at all. So my follow-up then would be, when you say that you're working and reviewing funding guidelines, what exactly does the minister mean? Is it the issue of budgeting, or is it the issue of vote allocation, so that you are looking at how much goes to co-curricular activities? And maybe some of these issues should be done before we head to the next national competitions, because I know I've seen schools really struggle to fund sports, to fund music festivals, and even costumes. In fact, it has been easy because of the coalition with the NGCDF. I know, like in my sub-county, issue like costumes and uniforms for games, we did through NGCDF. So maybe the CS can clarify that. What does that exactly mean? And where does that money that is retained go exactly? And does it translate to go to the schools? Because schools still struggle. Thank you.
Yes, the Honorable MP for Yatta.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is actually on hardship. In my constituency, I have teachers who receive hardship allowance. But then I also have other teachers who are working in TVETs, who are excluded from hardship allowance. So I want the ministry to tell us, how come some teachers receive hardship allowance and other teachers are deliberately excluded from hardship allowance? Thank you.
The Honorable Raso. There again, you will look at it, and if you're prepared for it, you answer that. If you're not prepared for it, then you give it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for his response. And I think he confirms in the affirmative that there's a teething problem in terms of funding for extracurricular activities. My question to him is, why don't we allow the schools or the regions to fund up to the regional level? And then at the national level, the ministry takes up that responsibility, so that it doesn't cause the problems that we saw recently in Meru, where actually from this house, members were asked by the schools to contribute directly from their pockets. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, the Honorable Oyula of Butula is in the house.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Minister about this support to games and other activities. We have faced a lot of requests, and particularly when a school qualifies to go beyond the national, because we have some schools that participate in the East African games. Now, they come to a stage where they cannot even raise a cent, and yet they are expected to travel, say, to Uganda or to Tanzania. I've had some of my schools going across. So can the ministry, just as it has been raised by one honorable member, can the ministry take up such expenses so that we don't subject parents to raising funds that our school is going outside, we have qualified, we are going to Uganda or Tanzania, so that the ministry takes full responsibility of these schools that represent us in the East African Games. Thank you.
MP Oundo Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's gratifying to note that the Cabinet Secretary is considering alternative means of adjudication so that we don't continue punishing our children, we don't continue burdening the parents. to take kids all very far distances. Probably we could also make it as a policy, look for the more central place so that the cost of travel is shared equally. But Honorable Speaker, allow me to draw the Cabinet Secretary to a letter dated on 3rd October 2025, reference number MOE-HQS/3/6/125. Honorable Speaker, that letter is inviting some schools to go to Nakuru for some award ceremony for Mazingira Award. Yet, Honorable Speaker, the ministry is not providing transport. Yet there's no capitation, the parents have no money. So how do you want the children to get to Nakuru from Funyula?
Okay, fair enough.
How?
The Honorable Nyikal, Doctor. I see your name, it must have been an old one. Okay, Kasim. And then the Honorable Member at the back.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine will be very short, and it's the manner of the way that amount is split. That the school is given 36 shillings per student, while the ministry retains 40 shillings per student. As a mathematician, the ministry literally remains with over 50 million out of that budget. And in a school of 500 students on average, the school will get 18,000, hardly to hire a bus for one day, because the bus goes for around 15, and then fuel, and then driver's allowance and all this. Why can't it be that the ministry retains at most 20 shillings and about 56 shillings then goes to the school? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The MP.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Okay, my name is Kenneth Kazungu, MP Ganze. I have a question to the minister. I wanted...
you had not put your card in there, and you the back there, so
sorry.
But now I remember you, MP for Ganze.
I did not carry my card with me.
Proceed.
I apologize for that. So my question to the minister is, what plans the ministry have, especially to cushion students, primary school students in Ganze against the vagaries of hunger? Because we know Ganze is not covered by the lunch feeding program that is happening in other parts of this country. And of late, we have had cases where now there are some donors who have come in to try and assist, but we know that very soon, maybe the donors are going to stop because there are issues that came up. So I want to know from the minister if there are any plans within their ministry to make sure that our students are supported. Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reason why the amounts are retained at the ministry and sent to the counties, it is to run the activities at the county levels and the regional levels, which are clustered because individual schools cannot run those activities. That's why this is retained. Perhaps with the suggestion of Honorable Kasim, we could relook at the figures that are retained so that they are rationalized. And as I said, the resources are not sufficient. There is always a shortfall. Even if we were to release the whole 1,500 or the whole 76, there are still going to be a shortfall. That's why we are looking at what are other options do we have to ensure that we utilize the resources or we optimize and reduce the actual costs that is expended during these co-curricular activities. So we are just looking at the whole scenario and interrogating the status as it is to get the best possible way to ensure that we do not lose the capacity of our students moving up the ladder to national because we don't have resources, but to ensure that they actually come without the suffering that they have been undergoing through because of lack of resources and reliance on well-wishers. So that is a discussion and is a review that is ongoing, and perhaps towards the analysis that I indicated on the numbers, etc. Once we are able to have the correct numbers, we might be able then to place a budget that is sufficient to cover for these particular activities in a manner that the ministry will take full control of all activities to avoid a situation where the students or the head teachers are required to get support from other individuals to support. Mr. Speaker, as we head to that is what we are doing as we head to the next competition, because I know that issue arose here and I was called, I was away, but we managed to move to Meru with the PS at that point, and we managed to get some resources from the sports fund to support the students that were there so that we could complete those activities well without the students suffering. There were 140,000 students undertaking that activity in Meru that time. So it is a huge enterprise that requires very serious resources to be able to be undertaken. On the question of hardship areas, it is exactly what I had indicated earlier, that up to date, the hardship areas are gazetted by the Ministry of Public Service, but there are situations, as I indicated, that you'd find officers, for example, in the civil service, getting paid in the same building, getting paid hardship allowance, and another officer, either teacher or a TVET teacher, not getting. So this is the rationalization and the review that we indicated is being undertaken through the PCS's office so that we can have a rationalized and an acceptable status for areas that are hardship, so that if it's hardship area for civil servant X, it should be a hardship area for a teacher who is working there, it should be a hardship area for a nurse who is working there, so that because it is the same criteria that is used. So that rationalization is being done, and it will be sorted out. On the question of funding of these activities, it's what we are working on, but I would like to inform the House that for activities, co-curricular activities, both at the national and the regional level, that is the East African area, these activities are actually fully funded by the ministry through the sports fund. We work with the Ministry of Youth to get that fund, but this year there was a bit of a challenge because we had the Chan festival that was taking place, so the resources were a bit tight. But that activity in both national and regional is fully funded by the ministry and by the government. It's the members or the students or the schools that qualify are not required to contribute anything to that activity. Those resources are available. And I think I've covered the question of Butula, the Honorable Yula and Raso as well, because it was, I think, the same thing. The responsibility will continue remaining for those places for the ministry. The issue of the venues, the centralization of venues, the regulations require that the venues for national activities are rotated annually so that activities go to various places, and because of that, we are forced to transport people, transport the children and the officials from one region to another so that the host can benefit from those activities that are undertaken by those competitions that are national in nature. Mr. Speaker, on the question of the letter that you refer to, this is with respect to the First Lady's Mazingira Awards, which is actually fully funded. And transport is provided to each region, and the teacher coordinating the activities would be in the know of what is supposed to happen in that space. So once the letter goes, the activity is fully funded for that space. We do not, so that is the information we have, but should there be a situation where that was not the position because it's a specific question, Mr. Speaker, I would request that I get more time to get the details for it and submit an answer, a written answer through the Education Committee.
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, and as we said earlier, it seems the Cabinet Secretary is underinformed. I don't want to say misinformed. He's underinformed. Frantically, even as today morning, the Sub-County Director of Education of Samia District told the head teacher and the board members, mobilize resources from the community to get yourselves to Nakuru. And here the minister says it's full funded, including transport. So where's the information gap? Is it being deliberately underinformed, Or is it a case the funds have been released for transport, his education office have withheld the funds, or as we say in my vernacular, they have eaten the money. Now they send the members of public, the schools, to go disturb members of public to fund as part of the continuous program of literally looting from members of the public. Cabinet Secretary. Hey, tell your guys to be serious. This is misappropriation, this is corruption. Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, as I said, the position is that they are fully funded, so we'll get to the bottom of it and respond. I can't really give you the evidence from here. I need to go back and get the actual details because the activity is clear. Mr. Speaker, on the question by Kazungu on the plans that we have, currently we are undertaking a feeding program of our students up to 2.6 million with a plan to move that number to 10 million by 2030. But what we are doing as a ministry right now is rationalizing the various players in the market who are actually supporting and sponsoring school feeding programs in various areas of our country to ensure that we have a view on what they are doing, and so that we can be sure that the students that they are supporting without them being required to undertake activities that are not in line with their beliefs or otherwise. So we are doing something in that space to increase the number, because we have quite a large number of students or learners that we are not able to feed, but that is again because of budgetary limitations. But as we work towards harmonizing all the players in the sector, we believe that we'll be able to increase the number and rationalize it in a way that we can distribute the resources that are available to the areas that require them most, including your place here.
Next question, question number 70 by the Honorable Nkimayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to answer question number 70 of...
To answer or to ask? Do you ask or you answer the question?
To ask.
Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 70 of 2025. Could the Cabinet Secretary, one, explain the rationale behind the recent reduction in capitation funding for public primary and secondary schools, and outline the measures the government is implementing to mitigate the impact of this decision on learners and parents. Two, provide the current capitation rates for both primary and secondary school students and indicate how these compare with previously established policy thresholds under the free primary education and free day secondary programs. Three, outline the actions taken to safeguard equitable access to quality education for all learners, particularly those from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, in light of the capitation shortfall. Four, state the steps being taken by the ministry in collaboration with the National Treasury to mobilize additional resources or refute the education funding model to ensure sustainable financing of free and compulsory basic education in line with Article 53(1)(b) of the Constitution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to respond to the 4 questions as follows. Madam Speaker, firstly, we wish to clarify that there has not been a decision to reduce capitation funding for primary and secondary schools in Kenya. The approved capitation rate to be provided by government under the free primary education program is Kenya shillings 1,420 per learner per year for primary, and the approved rate for junior school is Kenya shillings 15,042 per learner per year, and the approved rate under the free day secondary education program is Kenya shillings 22,244 per learner per year. The government is committed to fulfilling its obligations under the Constitution to provide free and compulsory basic education. The ministry utilizes the budget that is approved by the National Assembly to provide capitation to learners. We wish to point out, Madam Speaker, however, that sometimes the ministry is compelled to provide lower than the approved capitation rates due to the reduced allocations in the approved budgets. The current state of funding for the free primary education and the free day secondary school education programs for the year 2025-2026 is as follows. For free primary education, the requirement for this financial year was supposed to be 9.11 billion. However, the approved budget estimates for 2025-2026 was only 7 billion, therefore giving a deficit of 2.11 billion. For free day secondary education, the requirement based on the numbers and the rates that we've indicated was supposed to be 78.5 billion. However, the approved budget estimates for 2025-2026 was 51.89 billion, thereby giving a deficit of 26.61 billion. To address the current resource gap, the ministry is proactively lobbying the National Treasury and the National Assembly for additional budgetary allocations, including in the context of the supplementary budget, to ensure that the programs are adequately funded. In this regard, for instance, the provision for capitation for free day secondary education this financial year has been enhanced by 3 billion, therefore reducing the deficit in the secondary education to 23.61 billion from the 26.61 billion. We will go on mobilizing for more resources and lobbying for more resources to ensure that we attain the approved rates of capitation. Madam Speaker, the approved rates for funding for secondary schools are adequate to support the needs and operations of the schools, especially in schools that have an optimal enrollment and considering economies of scale. It is critical, therefore, that this House supports the ministry and the schools by providing adequate budget. We also wish to indicate that we have given priority to vulnerable learners through targeted support, such as bursaries and scholarships. We also partner with development agencies and private sector actors, such as banks and foundations, to mobilize additional resources that supplement government. In the meantime, given the limited resources available, the ministry encourages schools to adopt measures to optimally use the capitation provided to ensure access and quality in education, and some of these measures include budgetary prioritization. Schools are advised to identify essential areas that require funding. They should prioritize spending on initiatives that directly contribute to learners' students' learning experience. We also encourage them to do resource sharing, where schools are encouraged to collaborate with other schools or educational institutions to share resources such as equipment and teaching materials. Pooling of resources with neighboring schools has also the effect of reducing individual expenses, as they can benefit from economies of scale. And also efficient resource utilization. We encourage them to implement energy-saving measures such as green energy and other energy-efficient initiatives that have the effect of reducing overall utility costs, which will also help schools live within the budget. We are supporting schools to achieve this. I submit.
Very well. Honorable Kimayu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The CS has tried to answer my questions, but there is a context on why I ask these questions, Madam Speaker. Article 53 of the Kenyan Constitution talks about free and compulsory basic education. The same Basic Education Act of 2013 operationalizes the same. And as a proponent of free education, Madam Speaker, in my constituency, I still see children being sent home. Yet here we are told there is money for capitation. And let me talk about the free day secondary school, Madam Speaker. So you find principals in our constituencies still sending children home and saying we don't have capitation. Or some of them still say we received capitation, but it's not adequate. And the minister here is saying, is admitting the resources are limited, yet the constitution talks about free and compulsory education. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, we want to have equity for everyone because education is a right in our constitution. So I want the CS to address the issue where schools still send, children home to go and get money for school fees, yet it's supposed to be free. Again, Mr. Speaker, through the county education board, students are supposed to pay around 1,000 or 2,000 shillings for lunch for every month, which translates to around 9,000 shillings per year. Some of us, through the Constituency Development Fund, we have paid that money so that we ensure that students are in school. But you find that even after paying that 9,000 shillings per year, principals still send children home to collect more money. And I can give an example of a school in my constituency which asks up to 15,000 shillings per year. Yet here, we are talking about free education, and there is the guarantee that government has released money for capitation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Maina Madenge, MP for Nyeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to pose just one question to the Minister on the issue of free and compulsory basic education. Is the Minister aware that the food and the school feeding program has become a barrier to the achievement and delivery of the free and compulsory basic education in this country? And if he is aware, then what is the ministry doing so that we have a coherent policy on the issue of feeding in schools?
The MP for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, listening to the CS in terms of funding gaps of 2 billion at primary school and almost 20 plus in the secondary school. My question is, considering you have that funding gap, what is the predictable expectation of teachers or head teachers in terms of supporting that education which you almost call free? And I believe it is not free. Actually, nothing is free in our country. Thank you, Speaker.
MP for Marakwet West. Did you put in your
on the issue of TIG funds?
Something else?
Yes.
Okay. The MP for Funyula, Oundo, and Chematien.
No, it's okay, Speaker, for this.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Chematien?
Not in terms of money, in terms of quality, is what is hindering this country. You realize most of the learners come out of the school who are half-baked, and most of them are almost deleted because of the quality we give. Have a problem in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kasim, MP Kasim.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now that the CS has admitted, and it's not only this financial year, even in the previous financial years we've been having gaps, why don't we remove this word free? Because to most parents, when the CS says there is free, and he knows very well that there is a funding gap, some parents literally refuse to pay their balances. You give them a bursary this term, after the end, once that money is, they come back to you. They don't do anything because education is free. Why don't we be realistic, CS, and say from today henceforth, it's not free, so that even the parents can prepare to pay? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Yeah, Keses. MP for Keses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was wondering, you are calling me Keses. I am a member of parliament for Keses constituency.
Yes, I said MP for Keses.
Thank you. In line with this free discussion